I'm the data science lead from BlackRock. I remember my first time joining this conference was like 7 years ago when I was a graduate student. And I just talked with the founder of this conference. I was like, hey, can you imagine? 7 years, like time flies. It just reminds us we all got aged. Hopefully, we got wiser. So before we dive into today's topic, let me ask you questions. How many of you work in company that you guys need to address clients' inquiries and keep them happy and satisfied? Raise your hands. Yeah, so I can see that like 80% of you, you need to work on the client's inquiries and then to make them happy. So today, I'm gonna share with you a use case, how we use GenAI in the client inquiry management. I bet this use case is very applicable and useful, no matter what industries you are in. So first, I'm gonna give you some context about the product BlackRock sells to our institution clients, Aladdin. Then I'm gonna start up with the motivation we have behind this GenAI project. And then I'm gonna tell with you the design. And then the last one and the most important one is the business impact about this project. So what is Aladdin? I can stay here and talk day and night to introduce what Aladdin is. It's a super powerful platform for asset management system. But for you guys who are not in the finance industry, you can think about Aladdin is a Microsoft Office in finance. Now, I'm gonna share with you what's the motivation behind this use case. So this is usually the client inquiry management process. So the inquiries are sent from clients, and then they route it to the client service team. The client service team, the representative, solve them, and then for the client service managers, they just oversee the whole process. So just in case, they can step in at any point about this process. And for us, for the Aladdin product, there are two challenges we have. The first one is our inquiry volume is huge. That means our research, that means our client service team every day, individual person, they have to handle like multiple inquiries at the same time. The second challenge is our clients, they are high stake. Basically means you want to keep them happy and satisfied. You don't want them to get pissed off and then escalate their case. So what do? Our goal is to help our client service team to prioritize their tickets, ensure that at every time they work on the client's inquiries, they're gonna work on the most important one. So here, we introduced the GenAI. For every ticket coming in, we classify them into two dimensions. One is the sentiment. What's the sentiment about the clients? Is it positive, neutral, negative? And what's the urgency level? Is it high? Is it medium? Or is it low? And then we base on those two dimensions to route the tickets to our client service team. And then so they can always address the sentiment is negative, and then the urgency is high, that inquiries. For the client service managers, they can also, like every moment, if they see that the sentiment flips, so for example, the sentiment coming in for individual inquiry is like neutral or positive, but at some point, suddenly, the sentiment urgency flip. So they can also step in at any point. So here is the design, the technology. To be honest, there's nothing novel. It's pretty simple. I bet every one of you may have already heard this context-based fine-tuning. So such as the prompt engineer and the few shorts example. You just tell the large language model what do you want to do, and then just to give the model a few examples. You tell them, hey, this inquiry is negative, urgency is high. The other inquiry example is positive sentiment, but the urgency is low. What I want to emphasize is why we want to use this simple approach. So the first thing is it's pretty easy to implement and to deploy in production. Because as you guys know that for finance industry, because of legal compliance constraints, we are very conservative to adopt the new technologies. And at the same time, we really want to be first in the market to address our clients' pain point as quickly as we can. So this approach, like I said, is the perfect one for us to quickly implement and then deploy in production. The second one is the flexibility in adoption. So you can for the system prompt and also for the few short examples you give to the model, you can quickly swipe it or just append it based on different contexts about the inquiries. So for example, sentiment and urgency, actually there's a lot of the nuances there. Different contexts about inquiries, their sentiment can be very different. I will give you, for instance, on the interactions with our clients, their sentiment, if you read those emails, you will see that, wow, they seem pretty cultures, well replied. But if you are the customer client service team, you handle those inquiries for over a while, you already sense that actually they are not happy. They are kind of like getting pissed off at that point. So that's why having this sentiment and then urgency level are super helpful for them to prioritize the ticket. And then the last one is it reduced the need for extensive training data. And we all know that if you want to have a classification model, you want to have the labeled data. But for here, we don't have the labeled data. If we want to have it, we can help our customer, the client service team, to curate that data. But it's gonna take their time and efforts to do that. We want them to focus on addressing clients' inquiries as fast as possible. So that's why we introduced this approach. So we deploy this as an endpoint, and then the payload is just the inquiry. And you want this, once the inquiry coming in, it hits this endpoint, and then the output is generate two metrics. The first one is the sentiment, the second is the urgent. So for example, like this inquiry, you can see that the sentiment is negative, and then the urgency is high. Now that's my favorite part, the business impact. You may be curious, hey, like for this implementation, like what's the business impact for this one? Our tool actually reduced 35% escalations monthly for allotting service. So you can see that those are the two notes we heard from. One is the allotting client service global lead, and they share with us these two help them to stay ahead of the escalations and fares from clients. And then the other one is Americas. This is the regional service lead and share with us. Actually, she is a director, and you can see that we reduce like weekly from 7 escalations to 2 escalations. How many time and efforts we save for the manager? That's all I shared. I'm happy to take any questions.
When Lynn says she's not about to waste her time or yours, let me tell you something. This is impressive. Do you have any questions with regards to what she was saying, whether it is the sentiment, where it is, okay, I have a question over here. I believe that standing mic is open. Go right ahead. We have a lot of time.
Hi, how did you train the large language model to tell urgency, high, medium, low?
As I shared, we used a few short learning examples. So basically, first is you drop the prompt, you tell the LM to like at what situations you want it to make a decision. This is urgency. This is negative or positive sentiment. At the same time, we give the LM a few examples, the real inquiries that our client service team, they think this is urgent and this is a negative, different sentiment.
Got it. A few short learning. So how do you see the performance?
So that's really a good one. So for the performance, we talk with the business, right? Usually they're like the positive, the false positive, which means if we think this TK should be prioritized, but actually it's not. And then for the business side, they're totally fine with it because there's no setbacks for them. But what it truly care is the false negative, which means for the TKs, which should be prioritized, but we miss it, is really important for them. So in order to measure that, to evaluate that, we have for every TKs escalated for the clients in the system, our CRM system, it is stamped. So we run the measurement on cadence level. So just to make sure that for all the escalate TKs, have we ever adjusted stamp it as the negative or negative sentiment and then low urgency? If we missed anything, and then we're gonna keep fine-tuning the model, and then our coverage for is like over 95% accurate. So the business are pretty happy with the result.
Thank you.
I have a question over here, and then I'll come to you.
All right, I have two quick questions. The first one is, did you try any like traditional tax classification models to compare with your LM approach, see which one's better? Because I assume like more traditional tax classification models can solve the same problem with lower cost. And the second question is, there's a old saying in China that the crying babies can get the milk. So does it mean that if I were a client of your company, can I, every time if I ask a question, can I just appear to be very angry? Well, my tickets be escalated and solved sooner. So, is there any mechanism to tell like true urgency compared with like I'm just angry all the time?
Yes, I can answer that. So the first one is if we try the traditional machine learning algorithm. And actually, before the LM wave, I started this project and I used the NLP, the sentiment analyzer library. But as I mentioned, the sentiment based on different contexts can be varied. There's a lot of the nuances. If you just use the generic sentiment analyzer tool, even nowadays in the market, you will see that a lot of our clients' inquiries, the sentiment is neutral, sometimes even positive, like thank you, but actually it's pretty sarcastic. And then it should be like negative. So that's why we did a few iterations, and then eventually when the LM came to the market, and then we use it, we test it out, and then we found out, wow, this is really a game changer, and then the results are pretty good. So the second question, you say that is it a true urgency or not true urgency, right? So this is why we used the LM. We didn't use the clients to label is it the urgency, because for the traditional way, I know that the business allow the clients, whenever they submit an inquiry, they can actually just select, hey, how you want to, what's the definition, what's the urgency about your ticket? Is it high, low, or medium? And then you can see that every client, they want their tickets to address as quickly as possible, which means majority of the tickets, the client will select high urgency for the inquiries. So actually, this is not helpful for the clients who label the tickets instead of using LM to make a prediction.
Yeah, that was kind of, the second part was kind of my question, but I guess building on that, how do you factor in like size or priority of the client, right? Because maybe someone who's an extremely large customer, someone who's a new customer, who you're really trying to keep, like you might want to address those tickets, before some smaller customers. Like you said, small or large, sometimes people are just complaining in the ticket, right? So how would you kind of handle those situations to make sure you're constantly, addressing the issues that are going to impact the business value the most?
So you mean how do we prioritize the tickets based on different type of the clients?
Yeah.
So for the business side, they have different type of the clients layer. So for example, some clients they buy the whole Aladdin enterprise level. Basically means like Microsoft. You can think about a Microsoft. They buy the whole suite. They can use Word, Excel, PowerPoint, everything, right? For those customers, they're over VIP. And then for some customers, they only buy one feature. They may only buy the PowerPoint, but they don't buy like Excel or something. For those clients, so for the business side, there are different kind of like categories about the clients. And then when the issue happened, prioritization, it also applies to all level. For our customer service team, we have the customer service team, and also based on they have the clients. Like for example, some VIP clients, they have the specific representative, the relationship manager to handle their specific questions. So the prioritization applies to everyone, not only for the analyst, the first tier about customer service level, it also for the domain specific for client base, and also it applies to the customer service lead, the managers, so they can also prioritize it.
All right. Thank you so very much. That is Lynn, BlackRock VP Data Science. We really do appreciate that
you.
presentation. Thank you.